Welcome to the Hoops&Huddle podcast. I am Malika. Brandon is also here from the Rubric, and we are joined by my friends Faheem and Nelly from one of my favorite podcasts, the Good Rookies podcast. So really excited to have my favorite Raptor fans here. This is the Raptors Off-Season show. So why don't you guys say hello to the folks? And we would dive right into you guys' club out there in Canada.
Awesome. So first, I guess I'll go first. Hey, what up? Welcome. I'm happy to join you guys. Excited for this new venture by the team. So just excited to be on the podcast. Big up to everybody, all the basketball fans. This off season has been very tantalizing, I must say. It's been very entertaining. So for all teams, including Toronto. So I'm excited to kind of kick it with y'all tonight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Yep. Faheem?
No, I was going to say thanks for having us on tonight. I'm really excited. Malika, you've been in some of our spaces before. Yeah. We've talked Raptors before, and like Nelly J was saying about this off season, a lot of changes and possibly some more changes that hopefully we'll get into.
Oh yeah, I'm expecting more from Masai. But let's start. I like to start off with from the top down. Let's start off with ownership. How are you feeling about your ownership group going into this new direction, new season coming up? How are you feeling about the Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment Group? How are you feeling about them? Do you feel they are, making the right decisions?
Yeah, I think our ownership group is so different from a lot of teams. I'm trying to think what other team is owned by a corporation like that. Maybe you guys know more than I do.
The Wizards.
The Wizards, yeah. But the Wizards aren't really they're a team, I guess, but okay.
They're like a conglomerate.
I'm so bad.
Say the Warriors.
The Wizards fans, man. Shots fired. They got some stray bullets. The Warriors have ownership, so similar to those teams. I feel like our ownership group stays out the way. I've never heard our ownership group other than the Rogers guy. You know who I'm talking about in Toronto. But other than him, the ownership group typically they trust Masai, they trust the front office that they hired to run the team. And keep in mind, our ownership group owns the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Raptor FC, and the Argonauts. So they own 4 Toronto Major League sport teams. I guess you can call the Argonauts a Major League sports team, but they own 4. And so I just think that the good thing about the ownership group, though, is that the Raptors have superseded in terms of franchise value over the Maple Leafs, who is the number 1 franchise in the NHL in terms of value. So the fact that a basketball team is the highest valued team in the country right now, that's pretty dope. Being someone from, living in Toronto the last how many years and a struggle to get basketball to get that attention. So now I think it's rising up. So I think they've done a pretty good job in helping or supporting Masai to, grow the game of basketball in Canada and Toronto. That's my thoughts. Faheem?
Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment. So a long-standing, conglomerate in Canada, right? As Nelly J was mentioning, the teams that we have. But so it wasn't until we got Tim Leiweke. And Tim Leiweke, he's someone who was with the Lakers prior. It wasn't until he came to Toronto. People talk about the success and the changes that happened in Toronto. It didn't obviously happen overnight. But before Tim Leiweke, MLSE, Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment, they failed in regards to the type of management we had. We had people that could be considered maybe more hockey oriented. We didn't really have real basketball people in, or if we did have basketball people in, they weren't in for long enough to make a difference. Tim Leiweke came in, he was hired by Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment. His first move he did was, we had Brian Colangelo at the time. He took out Brian Colangelo, replaced him with Masai Ujiri. That was the biggest move in franchise history. And from that move, then we know all the moves that Masai was able to make under MLSE. So they kind of empowered him to do what he needs to do. So overall, I think MLSE's done a great job as of late, most recent years. In regards to our moves on the off season, we can get into that just in a bit, but for the most part, I like the direction. I can't really say when moves happen for the Raptors, I don't equate our management isn't Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment. I more equate to the division of Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment, which is the basketball division. And that starts with Masai Ujiri as the president, and then under him, Bobby Webster.
I do want to add on top of what Faheem said, the really cool thing too is that this is a major ownership group. And right now, the interim president is a woman, Cynthia Devine. She's a CFO of Maple Leaf Sports, and she's the interim president right now. So, I mean, not too many ownership groups that probably manage billions and billions of sports ownership is run by women, right, in sports. So I want to give her a quick shout out as well.
Oh, nice. That's a big deal because there's not that many across all four major sports. I mean, I can think of Sandra Douglas with the Raiders, St. Marshall with the Mavs, and I think I'm running out of names. That's good. So I appreciate y'all being on. One of the things I'm interested in, when I think about ownership groups, I think about it from two perspectives. One, their ability to manage a franchise or a team, make basketball decisions. And the other is connect with fans. And I would assume the greater value of a team is really derived from their connection with fans. What do you think is a big change, or what did they unlock? What did this new ownership group unlock to reach more fans, to grow their audience beyond just what they normally have had? I mean, because Canada's huge. I mean, it spans both coasts of the US, but I was never sure like where the majority of their basketball fans came from. Can you speak to that a little bit about how they're changing the game for the Raptors?
That's a good question. I think we're so unique in Canada because remember we had 2 NBA franchises and one got moved to Memphis. So I think those 2 teams generated fans in those cities. And then what was really interesting is that Canada had a big swoop of immigrants coming in. From the 80s to now, we're always trying to get immigrants to come and live here. Like, it's been a big thing. Like, my family immigrated to Canada in 89. And before that, most of my friends from the Caribbean all came here between the 7th and 8th because Trudeau, his dad, was big on getting immigrants to come here because there were so many jobs. Keep in mind, y'all, Canada is 39 million. I think we reached 40 million this year. I think California is 39 million. I think
we
Texas
have
is like
25 million in the Bay Area.
Yeah, exactly, right? So even though our landscape is massive, our population is still a state. We equal a state in America. That, you know what I'm saying? So in terms of population. So, but what I would say is that they've tapped into different cultures. They have Caribbean night for the first time, where Patrice sang up there. The WNBA, they had Julie Black sing. She's actually an artist out of Toronto. We've had like other mashups. We've had lots. We have Prince, who would come to games, rest in peace, Prince. He was a big Vince Carter fan. So I think they tapped into the culture of the city and the immigrants. And most of the fans you see are Black, Asian, East Asian. They're from other countries. And of course, Canadians, of course, are all diverse. But I feel like the immigrants coming in, when they come here, they're fans of hockey, the Leafs, and Raptors. Like, now we're hand in hand. So I think they did a really good job in connecting. I also want to big up our super fan, and Faheem probably knows his name. I forgot. I see his face with his name. But he also, yes, he's also someone that does lots of community service, where lots of camps, like in the summertime or any camp, they get free tickets to games. Like, they're always trying to get kids to come to games. They'll have like basketball camp day. They do so much theme nights at these games to tap in, I think, to the people, the culture as well. So I would say that I think was more connecting. And even the front office. I know some folks that work in the front office, they're from where I'm from. They have similar background to me and they understand the culture. So they have a really great diverse type front office, I would say, as well.
So Toronto represents approximately 8, maybe 9% of the entire population of the country, right? The city itself. Now, one thing about Toronto is, like everyone knows, it's very diverse. I can't say that the outreach, like Nelly J made a good point, saying that they just started a Caribbean night just this year. The Raptors have been around for 20 some odd years, but it's only happening right now. So I still think, if anything, I think the biggest change would be winning. You know, us winning the championship and people going to that parade and seeing everybody, whether they were a casual basketball fan or not, just the fact that their city was doing it on a global, like a big stage, that has spawned probably another generation of a fan that maybe wasn't there before. You know, it's funny. I made mention earlier to somebody about the Golden State Warriors. Golden State was never a destination to go to on the off season or play, really. You know, when you think of like Run TMC and, you know, Steven Jackson, Ben Davis, like they never, no one on the off season said, I wanted to go to Golden State back in the day. It wasn't until they got Steph and Clay and they started winning, and all of a sudden now they're a destination. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I feel like winning has done for Toronto. It's not, now mind you, we're not a destination for free agents, but we are definitely on the casual, maybe hockey, casual, maybe Toronto Blue Jays baseball. Winning that championship has really pulled over people to be more in a casual fan, I think.
Oh, that's great. What do you think of, and let's have I remember when I was on your space and I mentioned Masai Ujiri's name and questioned what, you know, his. Oh man! I
Sorry about that.
Him and his, not saying that he's not a good GM. I just wanted to see if fans had this amazing love for him as portrayed in the media, that he's just this guru that can't do no wrong. I was curious how the fan base felt, and Brandon, let's just say, there was a fan that came from me. I mean, he was spirited about it. And I appreciate the Raptor fans' love for their team and love for their GM. But how do you guys feel about Masai Ujiri? Do you feel like first of all, let me correct this, because I just made the mistake that a lot of people make when they talk about Toronto. The GM is Bobby Webster.
Thank you.
And Masai Ujiri is the president of basketball operations.
That's right. Correct.
Yeah. Thank
How
you.
do you feel?
But Masai was, just to your credit, Masai was the GM before. So you get part marks for sure.
So what do you think about the job they are both doing? And then we can move on to your coaching staff after that.
I think Raptor fans want a championship and not people, you know, excuse my French, shit don't stink. That's not true. Like, unfortunately,
is it what have you done for me lately?
Well, the thing for me is that I feel like Masai has made a lot of mistakes. A lot. I've not been happy. His draft picks have not panned out. He's wasted a lot of draft picks on these random guys. No offense to but a lot of guards. Like, if you look up our picks, it's like Africans or guards. It's like two extremes, right? I think Scotty Barnes was our best pick in the last 4 or 5 years. Looking at our like Raptors draft history, and it's something where I just think that for Toronto, like, I feel like I get it. It's hard. It's like, you know, you're drafting based on potential. And keep in mind, guys, if you look up draft picks overall, okay, the majority of an NBA draft, I think only 30% get a second-year deal. 30%.
Yeah.
So I don't expect Masai to draft and get that correct. My goal for him is to bring in players, make the right trades, right? And make Toronto a destination for people that want to come here. And so on that aspect, I think he's been excellent. Because now players, like I heard one player who actually was with us this past year, and he was like, I really like Toronto, want to go back. And I'm like, oh, like this is really cool. So players who come here really enjoy it. But it's to have them come here and convince them to come here, right? So I think Masai done a good job in creating a healthy environment. I think this past year was an off year for a lot of different reasons, which I don't want to get into. But Masai can make mistakes. He's not perfect. No GM, no president's perfect, right? Like no one is. Everyone has made bad draft pickups. I've made draft picks. And I think the issue with some fans is that they're either extremely like, oh, Masai's awful, he's terrible, or they're like, Masai's so perfect, he's so great. And I'm more in the middle. I'm like, no, Masai is doing the best he can with what he has. Like, you know what I'm saying? I actually like the Grady Dick pickup. I like Koloko. I like Scotty. You know what I mean? And so those are good pickups. But now the next step is development. It's getting them in the right system. It's finding the right coach to help facilitate their growth. And I feel like with our past coach, a lot of the young guys that came in were not getting that energy. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, I'm not sure what that is. Is it front office? Probably not. It's probably like coaching staff, development head. That's not Masai, right? But I do see his pickups. Like, for example, the Dewan Hernandez pickup. What the hell was that? Like, what? You know what I'm saying? But again, the second round draft pick, you're not going to get a lot of great guys in the second round at the end. So for me, it's like Masai is not perfect. And I don't mind if someone, is critical of him. But I do think Masai has to hire Malika, the right people to support his players. I don't think he did a good job with that. I think that's where I'm more of Masai. Who are you hiring, bruh? Who is coaching our team? Who's helping these guys develop? Because I'm not seeing improvement from year to year. So I guess I'll land there. How about you, Faheem?
Maybe a little. I kind of see it maybe a little bit different in regards to draft picks. When I look from the time, so you mentioned Scotty. Scotty's a first round pick, lottery pick. Mm-hmm. Masai hasn't had a lot of lottery pick options while he's been a GM because we've always been a relatively winning team. The one time we really faltered, which was in fact Tampa, is why we end up getting Scotty, right? I look in the first round here from the side real quick. It goes Pascal, I give that a thumbs up. Pirtle, thumbs up. OG, thumbs up. These are all first round, by the way.
But looking at that draft class, there are better guys that he could have picked up. But okay, yeah, they're good.
Dewan Hernandez, he's second round. But like you mentioned, he's second round, 59th pick. So like once you get to the end of second round, that's all you scrape.
Yeah, I don't fault him for that. Like I just don't think.
Jalen Harris, he's a second round and 59th pick also.
Malachi Flynn, we missed Desmond Bane. Go ahead.
First round, but he was first round, but he was the end of the first round. Like he's a 29th pick.
But we didn't pick Desmond Bane. Like there were guys that we didn't pick
up. Let me just say real quick, and I'll let you finish, Faheem, because I hear you, Nelly, with the picks that were missed. But one thing I will say about the draft is a guessing game almost.
It really is.
You could do the research. You have people who are scouts. You do the research. You go to the workouts. You go watch them play a few times a season. They're doing that with a bunch of players, taking all these notes, getting all these videos, and you're projecting how this player's going to develop. How are they going to work? How hard are they going to work? Are they going to have that quote unquote, I know this is Jerry West thing going around. I need to do a mini video on that dog in him.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like the wolf. Yeah, I got it. But yeah, I just wanted to say that part. With drafting, it's not an exact science. Some teams are better at second rounders than at first.
Well,
the Hornets. But yeah,
my point initially was that. Like my point, I didn't say he's a bad GM because of that. I don't think the draft picks that we've had fit with what we needed, right? Well, who would draft two guards in what? Like no one drafts two small guards in like 1 and 2. That's weird to me. So I'm not saying he's awful. I'm just saying he's made mistakes, right? Like to say that every draft pick he's made has been great, I'm not buying that. That's blowing to me. You know what I'm saying? So all I'm saying is that like I'm not saying he's been bad at drafting, but I'm saying he's had misses. You don't draft two guards first round, second round in a draft. That's to me that's bad best practices.
Go ahead. What you got?
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Just gonna say, like, to be a good GM, he doesn't have to, or any GM. I don't think.
Well, president, not GM anymore.
You could talk about Bobby Webster when you talk about them, talking about them in tandem. Like them together, not just Masai. It's really the front office. You could just say front office.
Yeah, they should. Anyone should be allowed to have some misses. I mean, no one's going to be perfect all the time. I just think it's about the percentages of hits than misses. And I think overall, Masai has a lot more hits than he does misses. That's all.
So now, perspective, and you can tell me if I'm wrong. So I look at a GM far beyond their ability to draft. I think that's somewhat good, but I don't think that's the key thing like it used to be for the NBA in today's NBA. It's not draft picks.
It will be with this new CBA, which
No, I agree with them though. I think it's true. I think like building something, right? Like culture.
I get you, but it's going to start with your top stars. Like, and they're still going to be in the league. That's going to drive the league, regardless of what the CBA says. As long as you have the top 10 guys, call it LeBron, Ja Morant, Damian Lillard, go down the list. As long as players of that caliber who are leaps and bounds ahead of everybody else, they'll drive what teams are doing. So I always wondered about his strategy in free agency, because without Kawhi Leonard in that move, we're not really talking about a championship.
No.
And that was a one and done, which means that it wasn't a secure draft. It was like I'm gonna reach for the sky, and if I make it. If I miss, I miss. And we're looking at him totally different today without an NBA championship. And you had your staples in your organization, call it DeMar DeRozan, call it Kyle Lowry, who are no longer with the organization. Or also, what I looked at were synonymous with the city of Toronto. When you looked at those players, and they don't have them, how do they make moves in free agency? That's what I'm really wondering, because that's where you're going to make strides getting past the second round of the playoffs. It's not going to be in your draft classes.
Yeah, I mean, I agree.
You can get lucky. I understand not everybody's in a state where we get to draft our guys and keep them forever. Yeah, that's not the norm, is what I'm saying.
Oh no, for sure. And that's why I think my first statement was like 30% of pickups don't get a second contract.
Right.
So I think we all that's what I said initially, because I know draft is not a exact science. So I would never judge someone by just drafting. But to your point, I did mention like trades and off-season pickups also matter as a GM. And I think with the Raptors, like they're getting better in terms of acquiring free agency. At one point, we weren't getting free agents coming here. If they could decide between Toronto and somewhere else, they're picking that other team. I think only the last recent years, we got like a Will Barton, Otto Porter Jr. We were like, what? He picked us over other teams? Will Barton, what? He picked us over other teams? Schroeder picked us over, like the last 3 years, and to Faheem's point, us winning, we're now getting guys who actually are picking us over other teams in America. And that was never a thing for us. We had to rely on the draft. That was our only way, or a trade. That was it. And once the contract was up, we were like, oh man, he ain't coming back. You know what I'm saying? So to your point, I do think they've made better strides in free agency. And I think the moves they're making is like, for example, they went to LA, right? With other teams to talk to players and sign them this offseason. Stuff like that is what I want to see, right? We're going to the States. We're going to recruiting. We're talking to players. We're being a summer league. Like, we got to be out there. We have to be involved. Right now, I know for people that I know, they're right on Vegas in the summer league, right? Meeting people, networking, to your point. So to make changes, people got to like you. They got to trust that you're going to take care of them as a player. So I think what they're doing now more often is that they're being more visible in the culture of basketball. And so I think that's going to be a big part of us, because players now are like, you know what? Toronto isn't that far. You know what? It's pretty nice. And, when, so to your point, yeah, I think we're making strides in that aspect. I think we're improving a lot more in getting guys who want to sign with us over other teams in the States.
I heard some players even say, real quick, I just heard some players even say Toronto is one of their favorite cities, and like to play in and to go. So I like in terms of when they go on the road, or like one of their favorite cities period is Toronto. So like it is a like looked upon positively, like overall. So that's a good thing. But Faheem, go ahead, and then we can move on to coaches and the roster.
Okay, I maybe have a little bit of a different angle on it. I don't think that we've really made that much leeway. The guys that Nelly had mentioned, Schroeder, Otto Porter Jr. Who was the third one there? Real quick, if you remember, Nelly J, the third one.
Otto picked us over 2 teams last summer. Otto, and then Will Barton picked us over a couple teams. Yep, and then this year Dennis Schroeder picked us. Yeah.
So they picked us, but they're like,
they're not top tier. Not the top.
They're not top players. No,
you know what I'm saying? And that's been always that's been our kind of Achilles heel. We can never get a top tier player to want to come to Toronto in free agency. And to Malika's point, much is true. Like a lot of players, Charles Barkley's always on TNT saying about Toronto's his favorite city and stuff. The difference between Toronto being your favorite city to come visit and actually to come play in. And quite honestly, our biggest free agency that I can remember that we signed on the offseason was maybe Jermaine O'Neal back in the day, or like Hidu Turkoglu. Whenever we sign a free agent, it's always either someone we've drafted that we've re-signed in free agency, but we never get a big free agent to say, hey, you know what, let me come to Toronto and play. So until we can get to the point where we can get a big free agent, choosing Toronto to come play, then I think we'll be making strides ahead. At this point, I don't think we've made much progress.
I'm going to do a reverse order and go we're going to end with the coaches. Let's go into, you guys lost Fred VanVleet, which, you know, like, I think he wasn't looked upon as positively over the last season. And maybe you guys feel like, I mean, it was talk that he may possibly return, but that 3-year deal he got from Houston, and I don't know what the base number is, but I guess the max is 130 he can make under that deal, or it's all guaranteed. I think it's
guaranteed. And I think also they got it because if they didn't pay him, they'll lose the money. I think it's something where they have to pay somebody that money.
Yeah, because they had to hit a floor with the new CBA. You have to spend minimum. And I just, so I mean, let's talk about losing Fred VanVleet and how you felt about, and your honest feelings on that.
I'll Faheem go first about this.
Oh, Fred, yeah, real quick. Fred, you know, as we know, undrafted 905 G League to get him, G League, coming on Kyle Lowry, be part of complimentary police in our championship run. Maybe kind of take over the franchise after Kawhi left. Like, we've watched his growth, and I think it just came down to, like you mentioned, this past year. What's happened this past year was Fred, just the fact that he can go on the market and command this kind of salary in today's market goes to show that where he is as a player, and where he is as a player now, and the player that we need on our team, it didn't seem to gel. And I think the fans were feeling it also. He was feeling like he just needed a more primary role that he wasn't going to get playing with the other people on this team. So I'm actually happy that he's gone onto a better situation for a better fit for him where he is in his career right now. Because if he came back for another year, I think he'd just be holding back a lot of players from growing.
Yeah, I would say this. Just look at the body language of the players coming off the bench playing with Fred versus how they played with Pascal and Scotty. Like, when Fred had the ball, they were just standing looking at him like, he ain't gonna give us the ball. So they weren't even trying to get cuts or nothing. Like, they weren't moving. They just stood at the outside and go ahead, Fred. A dash 3, a fake layup that's gonna fall on his back, looking for a foul. Like, at that point, like, Fred was playing for a contract. What he has now, that was his goal. His goal wasn't to help Toronto win. I mean, he can say that, but if you look at if you look at other teams who play team basketball, I felt like Fred was not playing team basketball. As a point guard, your job is to facilitate and direct and be extension of the coach. He was not doing that for the Raptors at all. He was playing a lot more selfish, going on tours. So for me, even on his off nights, he just wouldn't give up the ball. So I think for me and a lot of fans, we were frustrated with his playmaking, decision making, his missing a lot of shots, him shooting 39% from the field. That is, for a point guard, you're 5'11", 6 feet. I mean, at least average 10 assists or something. Like, so I think, what he wants to do wasn't matching where the team was going. And it showed. I know Masai mentioned things like selfish players. We all thought about Fred. Let's be real. We all did. When he mentioned people were playing selfish, that was Fred, a banner in front of him. So, I mean, like, Fred was playing for his contract. So, which is fine. He got his money. I wish him all the best. But I made it very clear. I did not want to see Fred or Nick Nurse on this team next season. And I'm happy that those two things have occurred.
Can I punch this in real quick? I want to punch this in real quick. I want to ask a question. So, Fred VanVleet, he's gone to Houston. Is it fair to assume that by his contract, he's going to be the number one primary guy in Houston? That's his team. Is that correct? Or is there something?
Incorrect.
Okay, go ahead.
Incorrect.
Okay, go ahead.
No.
It's going to be Jalen Green. That's going to be Jalen Green.
Yes, that's Jalen Green's team.
Hands down.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not even close.
Hold on. So let me ask you.
The most talented player is Jalen Green. That's his team. Like, when it comes to number one guys, it always goes by talent, not by salary. I think that's what Fred thought, that because he thought he was more talented, he would never be number one guy with Siakam, OG, and Scotty. Are you nuts? No. And on Houston, he'll be the veteran voice. But to your point, Jalen Green, that's his team. But
for him, I do think he'll have an opportunity to be more productive in Houston than in Toronto, because when you have powerhouses like Jalen Green, and let's not get ourselves.
Sengun.
Udoka knows how to coach. Like, he's going to get these boys ready to go, and he has good schemes that takes advantage of guys off the ball. So I think Fred is going to have an opportunity to probably do a lot better than what he's done. They can go a lot further. I mean, I look at them as one of the Trojan horses in the NBA this coming year.
They're going to be interesting because he'll be the chief floor general, right? And then he'll be able to get the ball to some pretty hot. They have some shooting around. I mean, Houston's going to be interesting with Ime Udoka as the coach. I think they wanted to surround the youngsters, because last year was a dumpster fire. They wanted to surround these youngsters with some veterans. You saw Jalen Green already working out with Fred VanVleet in the off-season. I mean, it sounds like it was a good move for you guys and for Fred VanVleet. It was time to separate, so he's moved on. And you guys have signed some. You have guys that signed Jakob Poeltl. You guys have signed. I had to close that page, which had all the information because of that, But you signed a few free agents, and then you have Grady Dick. You guys were able to, I'm excited to see him on the floor. So, how do you feel about the pieces that you were able to bring in? And then we'll get to Pascal.
I'm happy with what we got. I mean, this free agency was very tough, especially
Jakob Poeltl. The Jakob Poeltl has been someone I've been wanting the Nets to go after.
Yeah. I think my biggest concern was resigning him, Jakob. I felt he was the number one priority for me, and also getting in an actual point guard that can play point. Yeah, and I think Dennis Schroeder is actually a great, he's the most underrated point guard. Even if you watch the Lakers series, he was the most consistent guy. Give the same production, didn't play outside of himself, can play in a role, got guys involved like Ruby, Reeves, those and he can play with LeBron. If you're a point guard that can play with LeBron, you can play with anybody. So I think his experience will be very helpful to Toronto. Grady Dick, again, we needed shooters. I think we're one of the second to worst shooting team in the league. I think a stat was if we made one or two more threes last year, we would have been top 6. That's disgusting. So having Grady Dick, that fits a problem and a challenge. So I'm not mad at any of our picks, but I think my biggest one was getting Yak back, because we saw what Jokic did, and we need centers to do something in this league this year. So I'm happy with Poeltl.
Faheem, your thoughts?
I pretty much echo what Nelly J mentioned. Poeltl, very big Poeltl fan. I'm glad that we got him locked up. Grady Dick, like you said, shooter. Marquise Noel, from Villanova, the 5'7" point guard. He looks to be somebody, reminds me very much of Fred VanVleet, just in regards to maybe undersized, but plays with a lot of heart. I don't know how much playing time he's going to get.
But he passes more. Faheem. He's an assist assassin. I'll give him that. Yeah. He's a passer. Fred isn't a passer. He's a passer.
Right. So we'll see how that. He'll probably maybe go to the G League, obviously, and then. So I think we made the right move in getting rid of Fred and picking up Schroeder. Schroeder, he's a veteran in the league. And I think the difference that what we're going to see is we're going to really see, and I know you're going to ask about Pascal. This is kind of maybe a segue into that, but
yeah,
last season it was very much, whose team is this? Is this Pascal's team? Is this Fred's team? We had no idea what was going on. Is this maybe Scotty? Like, there's a lot of maybes in there. Eliminating Fred from the equation, putting in Schroeder, who's going to come in. No one's ever going to be wondering if this is going to be Schroeder's team. So there's one less person who just knows his role. Come in and feed, be a team guy and feed the guys. So I guess we're going to see eventually whose team is going to be, if it's going to be Scotty's year to break out, if it's going to be Pascal's team, if OG is going to get a more of an opportunity to handle ball. There's going to be a lot of different changes. It's kind of addition by subtraction without Fred VanVleet.
Do you think they look at making some big swings, doing some big deals? Because I still wonder, like, I get it. Schroeder, like, he's a role player. I got it. Like, he knows how to play his position, but I'm not pinning 15, 20 games on him late season in March, April to get into the playoffs, nor to go from.
Yeah.
As a point guard, though, I think.
But
really
he's as a point guard. I mean, it's hard to say that when we've seen him do it with like with our team, especially when you watch Toronto, like, our number one guy scorer is Pascal. I think he's one out of 5 people that averages like 27. Like, his numbers are top 6 numbers. You know what I'm saying?
And it's consistent.
So Dennis doesn't have to do much, right? Then we have OG, top defender in the league. Yep. You know what I mean? Like, this guy. So, like, we have some really good core pieces. But to your point, Scotty Barnes, if he can break out, all Dennis got to do is his role, right? So, and to be honest, watching Toronto Raptors last year, we didn't have a good backup point guard. You can ask Faheem. We didn't have any backup point guard. We had everyone playing point guard because Delano wasn't stepping up. Malachi Flynn wasn't doing anything. So we haven't had a backup point guard in about 2 years, which is so sad. So having a point guard now, a true point guard that can maybe help the veteran guys because they're the point guard, help these guys develop, help them understand what that means to play. We never had that before because Freddie's a shooting guard playing a point guard because he's short. Let's be real. So yes, he may not be relying to win games, but I think the value of him, like Faheem says, to get out the way, play your role. I think we missed that so much the last year. We didn't have anyone. Everyone wants to be a star, right? We need guys to come in and play their role.
And Schroeder does not want to be a star. On our depth chart,
I agree with that.
He's our fifth, like,
that's just my only concern is that where's my star power going to come from? You're facing Boston. You got 2 guys that can put up 60, 65. You go to Milwaukee. You got 3 guys that'll give you 80. You got, you got Philly. They can put buckets up.
And not for nothing, Jalen
Chicago Bulls. Score too. You know what I mean? So you're right. Like, and that's why I'm saying.
Where are you going to keep up with firepower?
In the Knicks, well, I think Jalen Ramsey, and I think they're going to their pick, like their point guard, they're going to have they had a year under their belt together. Next season could be a really good season, and I'm a Nets fan, so for me to say this,
of course.
I think they're going to be good next season. I really do.
You know what? That's why for me, this is the year for Scotty Barnes. If he doesn't step up this year, I'm off this guy. I'm off of him. Like, I'm not in the NBA. There's no time for waiting. Like, you don't have 2-3 years to figure stuff out. So this is my break it or make it for Scotty. Like, he needs to improve. I need to see more from Scotty because for me, to your point, that's the issue. We were reliant on Scotty to step up this season to help with the star power, and I think that didn't happen. And I felt like there were games, guys, where we're like, is Scotty like on off? He was passing the ball, not even trying to score. We're like, what are you doing, dog? You know
Some games, I'm like, where's Scotty? Like, where?
Like Scotty was going missing. Yeah. So to me, to your point, I agree. That's why I'm saying they're relying on Scotty to be the next man up for Siakam. Our star power should be Scotty and Siakam and OG. Those 3 should be our power guys. So this is, to me, is our last year's experiment, to your point. And by the midway, trust me, if they're not doing what's supposed to be done, Pascal's out, OG's out. Like, we're going to start a whole thing again. We can't do it anymore. Like, I think this is the last season for us to figure out this experiment of Pascal, OG, and Scotty.
So, Brennan, I understand your question when you're saying about if we have one more or another deal coming in, or like swinging for the fence type, because Schroeder, you're right. Schroeder he's not the one. But I think it's like 2 years. Let's see here, 2 years, 26. Okay,
He's J.R. Smith.
Sorry, J.R. Smith. You're right. He's, we're not spending a lot to get him. So I mean, we still have enough cap that we can go out and get make that big deal you're talking about. To get that big deal we're talking about, though, it's going to possibly include, maybe we're ready for this, maybe the Pascals or maybe the OGs, or just a more key person would have to be included in that, and what type of team we'd look after that, right? So I understand.
And you know what? Keep in mind, I don't think we are tied. Like, I love Pascal and OG, but I want to win. And so if we can get a bigger star, to me, like, I'm like, it's hard because, I don't think our players know who they are. Like, if OG's telling people that he wants to dribble more, OG, you dribble off your foot every game. Like, this is weird to me, right? Like, you can't be saying I want the ball more when I fall, but when you're stumbling, you're sliding on the floor every game. Like, OG, get better at dribbling and then say that. You know what I'm saying? I just think that the guys in our team are so delusional, and I'm like, who's telling you all these false accusations? So that's why, to your point, Darko, from what I'm hearing from players, from people that I know there, he is a different coach. Like, he is very disciplined.
I'm hearing good things about him. I'm hearing good things about Darko.
They're doing drills. Like, they're not just shooting. They're doing drills. Great Dick was like, I'm doing something I've never done before in my life. Like, he's a guy that I think we've been waiting for. That's why I'm really excited to see how they get better, because last season, guys, I felt like we were moving up, and last year we dropped. Like, we got worse in a year. And we were like, what happened to the defense? What happened to our offense? Like, what happened to this team? Yeah. Right?
I'm with you. I love it. I just am worried the NBA is so top heavy. Like, having a good coach to teach skills to role players. You know who did that last year, who did a great job and didn't get past the first round? Mike Brown.
Yeah, but
he was playing the Warriors.
But
I don't disagree, but you're always going to play. Let's call it Boston. You're going to play.
Yeah, but keep in mind, Boston was lost to a team of role players too. Max Strus ain't no guy. Gabe Vincent ain't that guy. Caleb Martin ain't that guy. They're all role players. So to your point, I agree. Like, that is an issue. But to be honest, Boston last year, we saw the cluster in the fourth quarter of whose ball it is. To Faheem's point, people are battling to be the guy between Tatum and Brown. Like, they have their own problems, right? That I can't worry about. I think with Toronto, we need people to know their roles. I'm looking at Denver as the pinnacle team, right? That team is very unselfish. It's pass first. Everyone's a pass first guy on that team. No one hogs the ball on Denver. Like, everyone just passing the ball. I'm like, this is the most. Yeah, right. That's a team. That's a team to beat right now. So I think I'm not looking at Boston. I'm looking at Jokic and Jamal Murray and MPJ and Prawn and all these guys that are coming off the bench impacting the game. That's how you. Yeah. And to me, that's something that we can mimic. We can't mimic Boston. We don't got two guys like that, but we can mimic a team and say, you know what? Let's get a great center. Let's feed each other. Let's play unselfish. And let's just try to win with some good defense. I think we can do more of the Miami style in Denver than we can't mimic Warrior. They got a Steph. We can't mimic Boston. They got a Jason Tatum. But we can mimic the.
I think Miami's success last year made getting to the Eastern Conference Finals reachable for teams that may not have two or three superstars. Like, you have Jimmy who, you got playoff Jimmy, but playoff Jimmy was a consistent in the playoffs. I think part of it was he was injured, but he was great. He was really great in one series, and then I think maybe the injury started to bother him a little bit more the next. So I think that having two dependable stars that are healthy at the right time, having the team be reasonably healthy for playoff ball, because players are all worn down after an 82-game season, even if they were injured for half of it. There's wear and tear on the body. That's the key to winning. Because you look at Denver, they were healthier than a lot of other teams on the East or the West. So I think when it comes to the playoffs, like the load management thing is going to be interesting next year with the awards. You have to play 65 games to be eligible for awards.
I love it.
I think that's going to be interesting. Now, as we look at your coaching staff, you guys, you started talking about, we can close out with the coaching staff. Darko, I've heard good things about Darko. Nelly, you already talked about the things you've heard and the drills and of that sort. You guys also, hired the coach from the WNBA, in GM. You brought him in as an assistant coach, and that was sent to uproar in the WNBA. I mean, what are you looking at, in terms of your assistant coaches, and what do you think about what you guys have in place so far, and versus last year? I mean, Nick Nurse is gone, so new squad.
Yeah. I think we have coaches from really good franchises, right? We got Delani, and he's from, he's been in the league for a very long time. So I like that he has that kind of background. He played, I think he was with Magic, Wizards, and different things, Hornets. Like, he's been in basketball for a long time. So I think last year our coaching staff was a lot of guys. When Nick came in, he took Dwayne Casey's coaching staff. He had a lot of great coaches who actually got coaching jobs for other teams and were head coaches, a la, the Finch of the Minnesota, Kings. So I think Nick Nurse lost a lot of the coaches that were really smart, and it showed last year. I do like the pickup, who is it? Lalila. He's from the Warriors.
Jama.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's from the Warriors, so that's great. He might bring some, interesting insight there. He's right. Also, like
he was with us before originally, right?
Say that again.
Wasn't he also?
He was the head coach of 905 a couple years ago.
Right.
Yeah, he was the head coach in 2018 to 2020. So that was pre-pandemic era, I should say. We got a guy from Chicago Sky, right? Wade, Batiste. He's from the Rockets. Like, we have guys from different franchises, and I think this is really great for us because the guys who've been our coaches have been around there, Toronto, for a long time, and I think we got stale. We got kind of stale. So I'm happy for the new coaches, the new vision, and you can tell the players are excited. Like, new faces sometimes bring in new energy, new mindset, new ambition, So I think it's a good thing. There isn't really any coach that I'm concerned about. I think our coaches have various backgrounds, and they're all basketball guys. They've all some have played with different teams. Some have actually coached before. 11. I think that's the Sam guy. San. He's been 11 seasons with the team, with the Knicks. We have guys from all over on this coaching staff, so I'm loving it. I'm really loving it.
Yeah.
I have many thoughts.
Everything Nelly J said, she pretty much covered everything.
You pretty much covered it, man. Y'all know y'all team, and the thing love about y'all love y'all team inside and out. You tell the truth about them. You sugarcoating. It is what it is. What I will say is, I feel like every trade season, there's rumors about a top Toronto player. I feel like this year, if OG and Pascal are not what your front office do not produce what your front office is looking for in terms of the locker room and on the floor, there's going to be a change at the trade deadline. I think they're both going to be on the roster at the opening of the season, but it's possible one of them will be shipped out by the trade deadline.
That's fair.
Because it's been, they both keep coming up, and I just don't think Masai has seen the what he's getting, what the teams are proposing is not enough, or not what he's looking for at this point in time, enough for him to ship out anybody.
Okay.
It's all, anybody's tradable if it's the right package.
Right.
And I just think
not Damian Lillard.
Unless if there's a great relationship between the front office and the player, and and everything, that's great. But if not, any player is tradable. So we'll see what happens.
And let me ask real quick: how would you grade the relationship between players, coaching staff? How would you characterize that?
It's kind of we have a new coaching staff, right? So we have
in the coaching culture, I should say. Like, I know that they've changed over. Mm-hmm. Was it really
like from Nurse to Darko is a big, like, they need to build that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You mean front office, the relationship between players and the front office? Is that what you mean?
Or no, coaches from before this current staff. Was it that bad? Where like, hey, like, it's significant. Like, morale was in the dumps. I don't know. I don't know much about.
Yeah, and we don't really know much about it. We did hear that there's some kind of locker room veteran, like a split between veteran players and younger players that was kind of happening this season. But in regards to how the coaches went, I have no idea. I really don't. Okay. But I want to ask this on the way out real quick. So it's well documented. Pascal Siakam, since Kawhi's left, he's kind of inherited the team, and I've never felt he was a number one option. Meaning, like, there's maybe 15 players in the league that are like really real number one options, and then you have, like, anything after 15 to 20 is like the maybes, and then Pascal, I just didn't think that he was in that upper echelon of type player. I would never thought to say, well, you know what, if you're going to win a championship with Pascal Siakam being your guy, especially after having that kind of guy in Kawhi Leonard. But some people in Toronto, maybe at the time, even if they didn't think it, they're willing to be open to give Pascal a chance to grow into the position. Now he is 4 or 5 years in. I still don't feel like he's grown into the position. This is me as being a Toronto fan who watches them regularly. I just want to know for you, Malika and Brandon, on the outside looking in, do you see Pascal Siakam as a number one option for a team that's going to do anything?
I see him as a number 2 or 3 option. Mm-hmm. I think he can be a key piece, a top piece in the championship team, right. But I don't see him as a number 1 option. Mm-hmm. Maybe this year he'll shock us. And not shock us. Shock us is not the right word. Maybe this year he'll make the leap necessary to be the number 1 option. But at this point, if he hasn't shown it with as long as he's been in the league, maybe it's not there. I think he could be a solid number 2, though.
100%. I agree. I think he's an elite number 2 for sure.
Yeah.
I would say maybe a number 2. I think more closer to number 3.
Yeah.
And what it takes if you get a superstar in the building that's going to be ball dominant. So when we talk about these top 15, 20 guys, they're holding the ball, they're controlling pace and space. I just worry that he wouldn't have that. And then I haven't seen in the NBA, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, it can't happen. I haven't seen guys just naturally grow into, I'm the number 1 guy, who never were the number 1 guy from that skill set. I just haven't seen it happen in the NBA that much.
Kawhi Leonard did it. Jimmy Butler did it. Like,
I'm saying they were the number 1 guys. That was what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it's possible. Faheem has had this narrative of Pascal. You guys kind of fed into his narrative so well. Like, he's been saying this since 2019, y'all. This is nasty work, Faheem. Listen, man, Pascal I think Pascal could be a 1B, right? I think he could be a 1B to a Tatum. He could be a 1B to a lot of guys in this league. Pascal's numbers is top 10 numbers, and if his numbers are top 10, then in a 30 team league, maybe he could be number 1 option. I think it's unfair that he can't be number 1 option. I just think he's never had a talented team behind him. We haven't had great talent since that championship run. We actually had, we haven't had actual true centers since Yak came back this year. That's, guys, he was playing number 5 for the last 2 years because we couldn't find a center. We had Alex Len. We had these scrubs coming in doing nothing. Like, Pascal hasn't had a fair chance to really be in his role with the actual team around him. When Yak came back, was our best, I think, games run with having a center. So it's unfair to say that. For me, I think Pascal, if we can get Yak back, we can get proper, like, coaching back, Like I said, this is his year to prove that, because now he has a center. So Pascal would have to guard the 5, which he was the last 2 seasons. I think we will see what he can and cannot do. But to say he can't do it with his numbers right now is like, nah. Like the numbers are amazing in the regular season. So we can't deny the man of power forward averaging 7 assists. What? How many power forwards average 7 assists in a season? Like he can pass, he can shoot. The man is hard to defend. No one can stop him. He gets doubled, I think, more than I think the double that he gets is probably also top 10. So if we're doubling as much as the other top 10 guys, I think that tells me that teams respect him. I just think because he's not American background, he's not on a lot of people's media. He's really quiet. He keeps to himself. He's never in the club or a strip. He's really always on a yacht, traveling the oceans. Like Pascal's a very private guy. And I think if he was doing this on any of the team, he'd be number 1 option. But because he's in Toronto, we're in the abyss, I think people think he can't be. So I'm going to wait till Pascal plays with Yakpertle, who's back with a proper guard. And then I guess I can see, I can maybe fall into Faheem's narrative, or I'm like, no, he can be a 1B. But I think
because the roster.
Go ahead.
I just think, the roster surrounding him would be, that's key for any player to step up. It's a roster construction built around him, a team built around his strength.
It hasn't happened yet, Malika, too.
Well, that's why I said I could see him as a number 2, because I don't feel like he's had the roster.
Never had it.
And
I say number 1, I'm really talking about
like superstar, like a Luka.
Going to the finals. Like you are going to the finals.
I actually do think, I'm going to say it again, with the right roster, I think he could, with his numbers that he's putting out, with a roster not built around him, if a roster has more that suits him, I think Pascal can be a number 2. Not a number 1. He's not a number 1. But I
agree there. I don't think he's a 1A, but I think he could be a 1B. Like him and a Zach LaVine would be great. Him and Embiid could be great. Like, you know what I'm saying? As a 1B, because even when they're doubling Embiid, if Pascal's open, he's cooking whoever is guarding him. You know what I'm saying? So, like Jaylen Brown with Jason Tatum, how they're 1A, 1B, right? People think Jaylen Brown can be number 1. I don't think he can be. So, no, like he's not that guy. But besides Jason Tatum, though, he looks fantastic. And he's a 1B on that team. So I think he can be a 1B. But no, I don't think he's in the same breath as LeBron. He's not there. But I think a 1B, I think he can do that. I'll
let Malika close out. But I just want to say, so when you have Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, there's a distinction between the two, even though one's 1A and 1B. To me, Jason Tatum is a franchise number 1 option. To me, Jaylen Brown is a number 2 option. If Jaylen Brown goes to another team, I do not see Jaylen Brown is winning. You're not going to win a championship.
Yeah, I agree.
So
but
when you have, you
call him 1B though.
You could still have the 1A and 1B distinguished, but there's still like a noticeable difference. And I think that's the same with Pascal Siakam. I think Pascal, I agree. If we are going to do the 1A and 1B, that's fine. But I think he's more Jaylen Brown than he is Jason Tatum. I'm landing.
We'll see, because the numbers are, we'll see.
Numbers without a second star is a lot easier than numbers with a superstar.
At that point, like imagine he had a second star that was averaging over 25 points with Pascal. That's nasty. Like,
I'm saying he wouldn't get those points. That's my point. I'm saying he would not.
He wouldn't get those touches. I think he could be more efficient. I think he could be more efficient.
Well, he would though, because remember last year, Toronto had 2 guys averaging 20s. Freddie and Pascal averaged 20s, right? But our defense was trash and we couldn't shoot the ball. If we put shooters and proper people around him, like listen, Jimmy Butler got shooters around him. He had hustle defensive players around Jimmy Butler. All I'm saying is that it's hard to say this guy can be that if we've never built a team around him. To me, it's like we can think, yes, he's not a superstar like Jason Tatum, but his numbers, he's been all NBA team. Like to make an all NBA team, that means that you're a top 15 in the league. Like that's not an easy route to make an all NBA team twice. He did it twice already. I'm just saying.
No, I agree. I just worry about.
I'm just saying, build a team around him, give him some shooters, give him a center that he can play.
Miami is an anomaly.
Position.
That's a huge anomaly that does not happen in the NBA.
But I think what Miami did is they gave other teams hope. They are to be a number 8 seed.
Don't disagree with it. I don't disagree that it's hope. I don't disagree that it's hope.
What they did.
Hope ain't the norm.
No, it's not the norm. But
the Warriors was hope too. And then the Warriors give teams hope that I can pick a bunch of shooters and make a championship run, but you don't got Steph or Clay. Like, I think at the end of the day, it's hope, but it's unfair to say, listen, there's no way you can make an All NBA team and you're not top 15, right? That means NBA, you're a top guy in this league, right? Now, to say Pascal number one, that's fine. He's not Luka, he's not the superstars, that's okay. But if you build the right pieces around him, we saw what he did in the playoffs, but besides Kawhi Leonard, right? As a 1B, his numbers were as great as Kawhi Leonard. It was like 21, I think, in terms of averaging. He wasn't averaging 9 points, right? As the number 2 guy. To me, for averaging plus 20 in a playoff run, that's really good. That's hard to do. So that's what I'm saying. Like, yes, he can't be number 3. I think is wrong. I think number 2, cool, but I think he can't. It's hard to say he cannot be that when he's averaging so, like, doing so well in the regular season. It's hard. Well,
okay. Last thing, there's difference between regular season and the playoffs. Jimmy Butler, he did not make an NBA team this year, right?
He made it. He did make it.
He did. What?
Yes.
Which? He was a 3rd team.
He made 2nd team.
Oh wow. Okay.
Anything else, Faheem? Listen, I got my. Listen,
we can have this. But we can have this debate, into the
Sorry, guys.
stratosphere.
I have to do because Faheem always creates his
I
narrative.
can tell this is something y'all go back and forth on Pascal Siakam and
what being a big conversation.
Oh, thank you, man.
Appreciate y'all. Sorry, y'all. About the hotness as usual as a cribbing on the podcast.
Y'all have a good one.
All right.
Later.